Today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in Heaven and Ale. This is a game that I played for the first time the other day, thanks to a guest teacher who stopped by my game night, Ben. And so I don't have the game with me. It's not my game, but I'm going to talk about a few mechanisms that I really, really love. One that I want to touch on first before I get to my favorite, because I had a hard time deciding between these two, is that Heaven and Ale does something really interesting with the time track in the game. Overall, it's a game about kind of running a farm, making beer, getting the value of that, the beer and the ingredients of the beer to go up. There's some very abstract elements in the game, but I can tell that it was designed with the theme in mind, at least. But this time track, the core mechanism of the game is that you're taking your little meeple, you have one meeple, and you're moving it forward on this time track that goes all the way around the board, and you are claiming the thing where your meeple lands. In most cases, you cannot place your meeple on a spot where there is another meeple. In most cases, you wouldn't want to because there's only one thing at those spots. There's like these random tokens that I'll get to in a second. These tokens are randomly put out on this track at the beginning of each round. Now, this might remind you of Tokaido, but it's a little different in a key way. In Tokaido, you're moving your meeple forward pretty much as far as you want to go forward on the time track to maybe grab the exact thing you want. And then other players, and the player whose turn it is the player whose meeple is the furthest in the back of this time track. Clever mechanism. But in Heaven and Ale, I really like how they changed this a little bit in that player order is always player order. You're always going around the table. So even if I jump way forward on the time track, my next turn still happens in clockwise order around the table. And I think this is key for two reasons. One, it really helps with the flow of play. It's very intuitive to take clockwise turns. As I've learned from viticulture, players sometimes just forget that it's their turn because of the things are not in clockwise order around the table. So I like the idea of keeping things clockwise. The other thing that it does is that sometimes in Tokaido, and Tokaido mitigates this for the most part, but in time track games, sometimes you can jump ahead and then you don't take a turn for quite a few minutes because you're waiting for all the other players to take their turns. Fortunately, Tokaido gets around this by making turns very short and simple. But Heaven and Ale, the turns can take a little longer. So I really like that there's no instance where you are waiting forever for your turn because it is clockwise. Now, I wanted to mention that because it's really cool, really interesting. I like that version of the time track. The other thing I wanted to talk about, though, are the tiles that you're picking up, or specific tiles that you're picking up. I don't remember the name. They're the hexagonal tiles. They have numbers on them, and they correspond with specific ingredients that go into making the beer. Well, there's wood. I don't know why wood goes into making a beer, but wood is one of those tokens. And the tokens are numbered from 1 to 5. What you're doing with those tokens is that you're acquiring them, and then you're placing them on either the light side of your board or the dark side. I think this resembles like a shady part of your farm or a sunny side of your farm. If you put the tile on the sunny side, the cost in coins is equal to the number on that tile. So if I have a 5 tile, I put it on the, I'm sorry, I might have said sunny. If you put it on the shady side, the cost would be 5. If I put that 5 tile on the sunny side, the cost is doubled. It costs me 10 to place it there. But the reason this is important is that throughout the game, there are different ways that you can activate these tiles to get stuff from them. I won't go into that here. But if you activate a shadow, a dark side tile, you get money from it. So that 5 value tile that I put in the shadowy area will get me $5 when I activate it. And I can do that multiple times. There are different ways that I can activate those tiles. So I'll get $5. If I put it on the sunny side, I'm essentially getting points from it. There's a whole other point system. I won't go into that. But essentially, when I activate that, I'm getting 5 points. I really, really like this dichotomy here because you are in full control over whether you're getting points or dollars. And the money in this game is very important. From every tile you choose, every time you place it, you have this interesting decision of where do I put it, sunny side or shadow side or dark side. And also, even though higher value tiles are generally better, this game, kind of like in games where you have dice rolls where maybe the high dice rolls are always better. In this game, it doesn't necessarily work that way because some of the ways where you activate tiles, the lower numbers are better, and because of this cost system, you may not be able to afford the 5 tile, or you may want the 5 tile, but or a high value, or maybe you want a tile 4 points basically, but you can't afford to double the cost of the tile to put there, so you need to choose a lower value tile to put it over there. So I really like how the game makes every tile worthwhile in the right situation. whether it's a randomly placed 1 tile on the board on this time track I mentioned, or if it's a 5 tile that you're trying to claim, or anything in between. I really, really like that. In fact, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking it could have worked really well with dice, because it completely takes away the randomness of the dice, or the impact of luck of the dice, because you still have these interesting decisions that go into what's better for you right now or in the long run, this high value tile or die, or the low value tile or die. Really, really interesting mechanism. I really like that dark light dichotomy, and the different ways the game makes low and high value tiles interesting. If you have any thoughts about time tracks or this light dark dichotomy, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. If you have another mechanism in Heaven and Ale that you want to discuss, I'd love to hear about that as well. Thanks.